Hello, this is Daniel Mart back again. I'm an actor and filmmaker based out of South Florida, but for this video, I basically want to discuss Ozzy Osbourne and the fact that he died. He died 2 days ago at the time I'm filming this video. He died 2 days ago at the age of 76 years old. And yeah, just wanted to give my quick thoughts on the fact that Ozzy Osbourne died, what he meant to me, what his music, both his work with Black Sabbath and his solo work, that he did, how that impacted me, how that shaped me as a person, and like really helped me when I was younger. Currently, I am 26 years old, and so yeah, like when I was younger, that's one of those bands, one of those artists I would really listen to. I discovered Ozzy Osbourne, Black Sabbath when I was in high school, and it was one of those bands that I really listened to during that time alongside Nirvana. For me, Nirvana is my favorite band of all time, but they were alongside it with Nirvana and Disturbed, Avenged Sevenfold, 3 Days Grace, stuff like that, Godsmack, Breaking Benjamin, Iron Maiden, Metallica, like those bands, Judas Priest a bit, Motorhead for sure, so like those were like some of the big bands I was listening to during that time in high school and early college, Slipknot as well, and yeah, like, I'm not gonna lie, it's a death that really impacted me right now, and I know it's pretty fresh in the mind. It's only been 2 days, but it's one of those things that, it's Ozzy Osbourne. He is the godfather of heavy metal, period. Like, there is no other person before him who really created, influenced heavy metal as much as he did. Of course, you had people who influenced rock music in general, like the Beatles or Elvis Presley, or if you want to go even before that, like you have the likes of Leadbelly, for example. But when it came specifically to heavy metal, he is the godfather of heavy metal. He is the Prince of Darkness, or King of Darkness, as some people are proclaiming him to be now. And yeah, it's just like, it's one of those things that it hit me like a ton of bricks when it happened. I was at a doctor's appointment with my father. I was at a doctor's appointment with my father when I found out the news that he died, and it's one of those things that, to a certain extent, I knew he was going to die soon. We just had the whole goodbye tour on the end of the beginning of the end? Well, whatever the name of that tour was, about 2.5 weeks ago, where like just everybody came from Youngblood. That cover of Changes by Youngblood was like probably the best thing ever. But you also had the likes of Ghost and Disturbed, or David Draymond and Papa Maratis. Sorry, you had like a bunch of people from the metal community there. Jack Black sent in a video. There's reports that even Elton John and Dolly Parton sent in videos during the concert or something like that. Yeah, you just had like people like Metallica, Slayer, a bunch of these big bands, like huge metal bands, paying their respect or their final tribute to Ozzy Osbourne. And that was 2.5 weeks ago. I was seeing videos of that on Instagram, of these performances on Instagram and YouTube. And for those who don't know, for the past like decade or so, Ozzy, his health has been rapidly declining. He's had Parkinson's disease. I think there's another thing that he also has. I'm not really sure the specifics of it, but I know the big thing is Parkinson's disease, and that's why if you see those videos, it's not really up. He's on his throne. He's been being carried around in a wheelchair, but during the concert he was sitting on his throne like the king he is, the king of heavy metal that he is. And you can see him wanting to move, especially with that performance of "Mama, I'm Coming Home," which is probably the biggest song that's come out of it, especially now that he died. Everybody's saying like, he's home, but I mean, to a certain extent, it's one of those things. You see Ozzy Osbourne as one of those people who's almost like mythical. Like, he is like mythical, like almost immortal. So even though you expect him to die soon, given his condition, given how he treated his body over the years, like, let's be honest, with the amount of drugs he consumed, he's like in one of those elite tiers. Like, how are you not dead? He's like there with like Axl and Steven Tyler. Like, how, with the amount of copious drugs that you guys took, how are you guys not dead? And he's like the person to show like, how am I not dead? With the copious amount of drugs that he's done over the years, and all the bat and dove head biting that he's done as well. Like, Parkinson's and old age is what takes him out, and yeah, it just sucks, you know. You know, it's one of those things. His legacy is gonna live on beyond him, you know, as a rock artist, as a music legend, a reality star legend. I've never seen the Osbournes. I've seen maybe a few clips from the Osbournes, but I've never actually sat down and watched the Osbournes. Not gonna lie, I'm not really interested in watching the Osbournes because I'm not really a reality TV type of person. But like, even then, even in that field, he's a pioneer of reality TV. You know, that came out in what, 2000s, and you know, that's when just game shows and reality TV really blew up alongside like Survivor and Big Brother and what other, like, I'm pretty sure Perez Hilton had a reality TV show around that time. And isn't there like a Mormon show, like Living, like probably a bunch of those TOC shows, you know? Like, he was a pioneer in that regard too. And I do know that out of that field of reality TV, that the Osbournes were like one of the better stuff to come out of it. But like, I don't really know what to say because my thoughts are kind of jumbled. And I guess I'm just kind of having a hard time expressing like how much I'm gonna miss Ozzy Osbourne and his music. I want to say the last thing he came out with was from 2023. What, it's a Patient number 13 or something like that. I think that's the last thing that he came out with. I forget if that's Black Sabbath or Him Alone. But I'm pretty sure that was the last thing that he came out. But like, yeah, I just remember jamming out to Ozzy Osbourne and Black Sabbath in high school when 13, I'm pretty sure that's the album, that's what it's called, when 13 came out. And you had stuff like God Is Dead and End of the Beginning, like those were the two big songs from that album. Like, I remember hearing those, and then everything else after that and everything before that's like, he created a genre, you know? Like, how many people really get to say that they created a genre? Realistically, not that many. I mean, I could, like, the only other people I could really think of who created a genre, I mean, I guess you could say maybe Elvis. But he took, he took basically folk music and just sped it up a bit, so to speak. I guess you can maybe make an argument for like Lemmy Kilmister for speed metal. I guess you can make that argument. Maybe you can make an argument for like Kurt Cobain with grunge, but even then you'd have like the Pixies and Mudhoney before that, you know. But like, I mean, I guess Boogie Down Productions with rap. I guess that would be like one of the earliest things in rap. You know, I'm trying to think, like, there's not many people that could really say they created a genre. You know what I mean? And, you know, let's not be ignorant to this. Ozzy wasn't the only person who, like, was the person who created metal. But he is considered the godfather for metal. But, you know, you also have to give credits to Motorhead and Lemmy Kilmister in that regard. To Led Zeppelin, to Deep Purple, or during that time as well. But, like, Black Sabbath and Ozzy and everybody else from that time, you know, Tony Iommi, Tony Iommi, I forget. Geezer Butler, like all those people, like from Black Sabbath, like Billy Ward, you know, they all created a genre, you know, help propagate a genre. I'm not even sure if that's the right word, but like, yeah, again, I've just been, for the past couple of days, I've just been listening to their discography across the board. Again, from his solo work, of course, you have the likes of Crazy Train, you know, the obvious stuff. Mama, I'm Coming Home, which is, again, a big one that's really come out in the past couple of days since he died, and because of the concert, you know, Changes, which is one that I've kind of rediscovered thanks to that Youngblood cover that they did at the concert. NIB, of course, Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, you know, of course, you got Paranoid, Iron Man, War Pigs, of course, the obvious stuff there, but like, you know, so many, you know, Bark at the Moon. I mean, it's just incredible, all the great music that he gave us over the past 50 or so years that since he's created music, you know. It's like, it's just amazing and it's incredible. And to a certain extent, I'm just kind of a lost for words because, like, you know, this is Ozzy Osbourne. You kind of expect him to be immortal, but you're not. And also, I'm willing to say that this is probably the first, like, humongous death we've had in metal and in rock in a very long time. Like, I think the last time we've had a death this big, I mean, you could check me if I'm wrong, and I'll double check too, and if I am wrong, you know, there's a correction, you know, if I'm missing somebody. But like, I think the last time we really lost somebody to this level would have been like around between 2017 and 2018, around that time, where we lost like Prince, Chester, and Chris Cornell, like those three, and Lemmy Kilmister as well, which I think that one was 2017, like Christmas or a few days after Christmas of 2017. Like I want to say that's like the last time we lost a real like some giants of the industry, between Chester, Chris, Lemmy, and Prince. I can't really think of anybody else since then that we've lost that's like to this magnitude, and even then, Ozzy overshadows all four of them. Maybe not Prince. Maybe not Prince, but like he definitely overshadows. Chester and Chris Cornell. No offense, and then he's probably like, and he definitely shadows Lemmy. I'm not sure if he shadows Prince. I'll be completely honest with you on that one. I'm not really sure if he shadows Prince. I think that's kind of on the same level, but you know, yeah. That's the only thing I can think of. Like we haven't really lost somebody this big in such a long time, and there's a reason why people are reacting to it. And again, it's the godfather of metal, the king of darkness. And then something I just kind of want to speak to, kind of in correlation with this, because I've heard a few people discuss this, and I kind of want to, like, I don't know, dispel the rumors. I'm not really sure if that's a right way to, a right trajectory to take this conversation, so to speak, but like, you know, I've heard a lot of people say like, oh, Ozzy Osbourne is satanic, Black Sabbath is satanic, you know, that's not appropriate music, and this and that, and more so because I am a Christian. But here's the thing, Ozzy himself was a Christian. He was a follower of the Church of England. There's a guy on Instagram, Christian evangelist. I forget his actual name. I think his name is like Dylan or Derek or something like that. But it's Christian evangelist, and he's made a few posts in the past like month and a half. He put out a story about a month and a half saying how he helped Ozzy and the whole Osbourne family come to Christ. How he gave Ozzy a Bible, a NIT edition of the Bible, if I'm not mistaken, and he gave that to Ozzy at like a convention or a concert, backstage or something like that. And it's one of those things like Ozzy has always proclaimed that he's not a Satanist, despite his music, despite the topics he discusses, despite the fact that he is, you know, semi-interested in the darkness of it all. He's always proclaimed that he's not a Satanist, that he does believe in a higher power, he does believe in God, you know. And again, he was a follower of the Church of England. And this guy, Christian evangelist, he was discussing how like a few years back he gave Ozzy his Bible, the NIT Bible, and that Jack Osbourne, his son, he's hit up this guy, the Christian evangelist, and how that Bible meant so much to him, to Ozzy, and you know, it's just incredible. I'll link the whole thing down below, to the reel, to the Instagram video. I'll link that down below. But like, it shows that he was, and I like to believe that he was a Christian, you know, and that he is saved. He was saved. You know, it's one of those things that maybe this part of the discussion is maybe better for a video on its own, which I probably would make a video of this discussion on its own, but like, it's one of those things like, I just like to believe the fact that he is a Christian, so therefore he is rocking out there with God. You know, hopefully he's there alongside Randy Rhoads, you know, and Lemmy, for example, and you know, Prince and Chester and all these, Chris Cornell and Kurt Cobain. Honestly, that'd be nice. John Lennon, you know, all these people. They just rocking out there with all the big leagues up there. And yeah, like, I guess my point with this is the fact that he was saved, he was a Christian, so that brings me more peace. And then maybe in a different video I'll discuss like my thoughts on listening or viewing quote unquote inappropriate media as a Christian. You know, that's a discussion I'll leave for another time. But like, it's one of those things like, a lot of people are like, oh, you like Ozzy, but you're also a Christian, and how does that work? It's like, it works because I like his music. You know, that's really what it comes down to. It's, you know, and that's also to say, it's not like I only listen to Black Sabbath, or it's not to say that I only listen to heavy metal. I listen to a bunch of other music. I listen to pop music. I listen to gospel music. You know, I trust in God, for example, and Hosanna and all those, and you know, elevation worship and all that stuff. You know, so yeah, well, I guess you could say it evens out. You know, but again, I think that's a discussion for another time, to be honest with you. But like, you know, I've gotten a little bit of pushback and saying like, oh, you know, rest in peace to Ozzy. It's like, no, first off, he was a Christian, like confirmed Christian, and I want to believe in my heart that he was a Christian, so therefore he is saved. But even on top of that, I feel like that whole discussion is just kind of weird sometimes, the way it goes. I just wanted to touch upon it because I have got some pushback. It's like, it doesn't matter. You know, at the end of the day, he's saved. He's at the right side of God. Let him rock out in heaven. That's all I'm gonna say. But yeah, that's basically it for now. Like, what else do you want me to say? Rest in peace, Ozzy Osbourne. Rest in peace, John Michael Osbourne. And, thank you for all the great music you gave us over the years, helping me in those times in high school and early college. I was just rocking out to your music and all the other music I was rocking out to during that time. But, again, your music helped, stuff like Dreamer, of course, and Diaries of a Madman, and, Sweet Leaf and all those other songs. And, thank you for the music that you gave us. And thank you for creating a genre, an incredible genre. And, all, over time, it's going to be everything everybody does at this point in regards to heavy metal is going to be built off the legacy that you built all those years ago in England, back in the 60s and 70s. So, man, that's really it. Rest in peace, Ozzy Osbourne, and I hope you're up there rocking out, rocking out. And yeah, I mean, I know it's a bit of a cliche at this point, but Mama, he's home. So yeah, this is Daniel Mart signing off.